Wisconsin, author of peer-reviewed publications. He likes to explore the boundaries between science and pseudoscience in medicine. He's done content for Science-Based Medicine, The Skeptic, and The Skeptical Inquirer, and he'll be talking today about the weird practice, eating the sun.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here. I'm a newcomer to New Mexico, so I haven't participated in a lot of these kind of conferences. I was lucky enough to do a skeptic camp in Monterey last year, and I gave a little bit different talk, and that was one. It was kind of a sad talk because it involved 3 women that had been blinded by some stem cell quackery. And all the injuries in this talk are self-inflicted, so that's a little more fun. So this talk is based on this film, which I saw a few years ago. I learned about it in listening to a movie review podcast that talked about this movie, and I had to see it for myself. I'm a retired physician, and I was a retina specialist, so I actually saw people who were injured from looking at the sun. And this is a documentary about sun gazing. I actually wrote a review of this for the UK Skeptic online magazine, and I was reviewing that review that I did before, and I decided maybe I had been a little unfair to some of the claims in the movie, so I decided to revisit those, and that kind of became the nature of this talk. This will have a little bit of everything in it. It's a movie review, it's got a little geography, a little bit of physics, and when I put this talk together, I wasn't thinking that I was reviewing a documentary, and I have a documentarian in the audience. And I'm going to be doing some thermodynamics, and I have some physicists in the audience, so maybe I should rethink my talk based on the audience. But this is an important movie because for the first time ever, a movie had the courage to ask these important questions. Can a young man take off his shoes and gain inner peace staring at the sun? Will he avoid damaging his eyes by doing practice number 1? And will he stop sun gazing after he learns the tragic answer to question number 2? And the 4th question, can an old man imbibe energy through his eyes and avoid eating? And I think I can answer at least 3 of these 4 questions. I don't know about the inner peace part, but I think the other 3 can be answered. So this is the protagonist of our movie. His name is Mason. And I found Mason to be kind of a sympathetic character. He had some troubles in his life, and he had found this practice of sun gazing. And he found great strength in this practice, and he was really trying to explore the boundaries of sun gazing. So this documentary is a road trip that he took with the film crew, meeting other people who were engaged in this practice of sun gazing. And I wish you could meet all these other characters in the film. It's a really interesting cast of people. And I kind of do recommend this movie, just because it's interesting, and I don't know how it stands up as a documentary, but it's an interesting piece of filmmaking. But Mason decides to meet other people who do this to learn more about their practices and to learn what they're getting out of it. He also sets up a web page so he can communicate with people virtually. There's only one other character I'm going to introduce you to, and that's this gentleman. And he goes by the initials HRM, and that's what everybody refers to him as. And he is kind of Mason's spiritual advisor and guru, and he's really a sun gazing evangelist. People come to him to learn the practice of sun gazing. So I'm going to show some movie clips. I hope they play okay. So this is a clip. There's a lot of unusual claims about sun gazing, but this is probably the most interesting one. This gentleman, HRM, claims that he can go for extended periods of time with no food because he gets all of his energy from the sun. And medical experts can't believe their eyes. And I'm going to tell the stories of these 2 characters kind of separately. They're intertwined through the movie, but I'm going to tell each character's story a little bit separately. So it's hinted all through this movie, it pops up time and time again, that somehow HRM's abilities are tied to his pineal gland. And a pineal gland is a real thing. A pineal gland is an endocrine gland that's buried deep in your brain, and it's involved in regulating diurnal cycles. So it indirectly gets signals from the eyes and it releases melatonin and is involved with the diurnal cycle. It's always had kind of this mystical features to it. I think some people have thought it was the seat of the soul. It's often called the third eye. But one of the hinted things that HRM has this ability because he's really packing with his pineal gland. His pineal gland is apparently much larger than normal, and for whatever that's worth. And you'll see that comes up over and over again in the movie. So this is near the beginning of the documentary, and you can see this is Mason. You first meet his feet, and I'll play. So he's engaged in sun gazing, and he kind of goes on and explains a big part of the premise of the movie. Soundtrack is great.
There's something magical about light. Civilizations have worshipped the sun. It's sort of cutting out the middleman of energy. You can eat a cow, which ate, the wheat. If you eat wheat, well then you're more directly to the sun. Well, why don't you just eat the sun? That's energy. So you're going right to the source.
Pineal gland.
You stare at the sun for about 9 months until you reach 44 minutes. I do not know why 44 minutes is a magic number. 44 minutes is where your mind is supposedly fully charged.
So this 44-minute mark, that is never explained where that number comes from. It comes from HRM himself. His plan is to gradually build your tolerance to sun gazing until you hit this magic daily sun gazing time of 44 minutes. So there's some logic to all this. I mean, we are truly solar powered. We are indirectly solar powered. So plants have the ability to take photons from the sun and convert those photons into energy, into chemical bonds, and we can use those chemical bonds to make structures, or we can use it to store energy. And we can take that energy stored in the plants and we can eat that, and that's how we gain our power. If we don't like our veggies, we can insert a middleman here and get our energy that way. But to the best of our knowledge, based on anecdotal experience from every human that's ever been studied, we don't have the ability to do that. We don't have the biochemistry to convert solar energy into metabolic energy. Or so they say. That's what they want you to believe. So like I said, a lot of this film is Mason going around the country meeting other sun gazers. But I guess the film crew thought it would be fun to have Mason go to this photobiology lab. And in that lab, they have a device that simulates the output of the sun. And he's talking to this PhD photobiologist. She probably doesn't get very many visitors, and she probably never appears on camera, but she's kind of the hero of this movie. She's one of their only two people that they show in the movie at all that have any subject matter expertise in light. And she has two of the best lines in the whole movie, so I'll cut to her.
So is this more dangerous than the sun?
Well, yes, I would say so because the output is higher.
This is higher than the sun.
Yeah.
This is stronger than the sun, but it's so little.
Yes, it is. But it has 5,000 watts, so it's very powerful.
So you shouldn't stare into that.
Oh, definitely not.
How about staring at the sun?
Not during the daylight hours. Claim that if you do that, that you won't have to eat again. I don't think that that's going to be biochemically possible.
Now, I don't know why the documentarians made the decision to photograph her in such close range and such terrible lighting, but she's the hero of this movie. So through his website, Mason gets a communication from one of his followers that they learned that they had damaged their vision through sun gazing. So he actually does a prudent thing. He decides to get his own eyes checked. So I recognize where he goes. It's at the UCLA Medical Center. And he's seen by a retina specialist who is kind of, I know, by 1 or 2 degrees of separation. But this is her taking the history, and she asks him if he has any symptoms, and he claims to have no visual symptoms.
My vision is arguably sharper than
Okay. Can I ask the reason why you're doing this?
Yeah, why am I doing this? I'm still working on that.
So she takes a history, she sends him for some tests, and among the tests he gets is a test called a fluorescein angiogram, where they inject a fluorescent dye in his veins and take a bunch of pictures of his eye. And the photographer the technician who does this test is kind of the first one to break the news to him, which they're not really supposed to do, but that's what happens.
But what would you conclude that by looking now you have it closed?
Well, it looks like a large diffuse burn in the macula.
Do you think that would have been there before?
No. That's definitely not a normal finding.
Look up into
So then he sees the retina specialist again.
He has pretty significant damage to the retinal pigment epithelial cells up into the left. In terms of his vision, I am actually surprised that he does not have any symptoms. I don't think there's ever a safe time to look at the sun.
And that's the only other subject matter expert, and that's the only other opinion that really is based on any subject matter expertise. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, when I first saw this movie, I really had to search far and wide to find it. You can now watch this on YouTube for free. So if you really are interested, it is easy to find. Just search for Eat the Sun on YouTube. It's kind of worth a watch. So this is a man, any psychology, people with psychology backgrounds in here? Well, this is a man in crisis. You can tell he's in crisis. He has all the signs of a man in crisis. He's in the country, sitting backwards in a folding chair. You know, those are, I think, on the DSM. So he realizes he's, not only has he injured himself, but he may have put other people at risk because he has encouraged other people to do something that might be dangerous to them. And he really does seem to have a moment of reckoning with this. And he takes a long break from sun gazing. But, you know, but he eventually completes the hero's journey. And this is him after he's learned he's damaged his vision. In a triumph. He made his 44 minutes, so I guess he's the hero of his own story. So that brings us back to HRM. And HRM, his most outrageous claim is that he doesn't need to eat. He admits that he drinks water, coffee, tea, and buttermilk, but says he hasn't eaten any solid food for years. And this is him giving a lecture, and he says,
if you pay me $1 billion, I will not eat.
if he paid him $1 billion, he would not eat. If you paid me $1 billion, I might stare at the sun. But apparently the filmmakers were a little suspicious of this claim because it seems like they kind of followed him around San Francisco. And they catch him. So this is him.
He's ordering water.
Well, we'll see. So there's a necessary confrontation that's going to happen here. So they go to his place of business and they confront him with this observation.
You had lunch today at an Indian restaurant?
No, somebody took me for photographs. They paid me $100.
To what? How much?
To take different posters in the Indian restaurant.
Somebody,
Somewhere on the road and everywhere.
you saying that they paid you to take those photographs?
Yeah. They said they want some photos of me.
Eating.
Oh, pretend to eat. I don't know.
I don't understand why you'd want to be with food if you're telling everyone that you don't eat.
Also, definitely I don't eat. It's definite that I don't eat. I do take tea, coffee and buttermilk.
You're telling me you don't eat.
No, I never eat. And I've never eaten even today. It is only because they wanted me.
All right.
All right, that settles it.
Case closed.
I don't know if they framed it this way on purpose, but it really is beautiful.
Well done. Can you show me the photographs?
Actually, he just came in at 11:30 and ate all the food.
What did he eat?
He started eating that one, and of course rice, this one, this one, this one, this one.
They paid me. That's what I am telling you. Now that $100 they paid me.
Can I see the $100?
Yeah, it's in that. My my bag.
Okay. So in the movie, he never comes clean, but ultimately he writes an email to the documentarian and admits that on that particular occasion he did eat. But he didn't admit that he had to eat. After many years. And he doesn't really think that this will put a damper on the sun-gazing movement at all. So the fact that he ate doesn't prove that he had to eat. So this revelation was, I decided that let's steelman HRM's claim. Steelman means to present the best possible argument for somebody's claims, maybe even better than they presented it themselves. So that led me to a thought experiment. One way we could test these claims would be to put him in a very controlled environment, control any access to food, come back 411 days later and see how he's doing. We can't do that experiment because unfortunately after the making of this documentary, HRM died. So we can't empirically.
Food poisoning.
You win.
That's cold.
So we can't empirically test his claims. But let's say he had the ability of photosynthesis, or he had some atavistic metabolic pathway that nobody's discovered, that he could actually take in photons and convert them into metabolic energy. So that raises a question. Then it becomes a thermodynamics problem. Would he be able to take in enough energy to meet his metabolic needs for 411 days like he claimed? So now we get into a math problem, and it's actually a pretty simple problem. There's 4 things that we need to know to make this calculation. We need to know how bright the sun is. We need to know how large his pupils were, because that controls the amount of light entering his eyes. We need to know how long he was exposed to the sun, and he told us that, 44 minutes. And then we need to know how efficiently he can convert that. Nothing happens with 100% efficiency. We need to know how efficiently he can convert sunlight into metabolic energy. So I came up with some numbers for what I think would exist in the real world. Sun gazers, by practice, tend to do their activities just after sunrise or just after sunset, when the sunlight's pretty attenuated. That's probably why more of them don't have eye injuries. And at that time, the variable is called irradiance. The solar irradiance at those times is less than 500 watts per meter squared. When people are looking at their sun, their pupils get really small because the eye's trying to protect itself. So I estimated that the pupillary diameter when people are looking at the sun, and I actually watched the videos, is about 1 millimeter, and that's about an area of 3.1 square millimeters. He told us the duration is 44 minutes, and I don't know what numbers to plug in for efficiency. I was surprised to learn photosynthesis is only about 5% efficient. If you have solar panels on your house, they may be somewhere around 20% efficient. So now I'm going to show you the numbers I plug into the model, and I was as generous as possible with coming up with these numbers. So here's the geography part. The point on Earth with the highest ever measured solar irradiance is a plane in Chile. And because of its latitude and its altitude and its atmosphere, it's repeatedly had the highest ever measured solar irradiance, and the highest recorded in history is 2,177 watts per square meter. Pupil size varies quite a bit. When you stare at the sun, the pupil gets really, really small. We can make the pupil big with drugs, with eye drops. So I'm going to say his pupils were maximally dilated, which is about 10 millimeters in diameter or 5 millimeters in radius. So I'm going to be as generous as possible with that. So in real world, it's less than 500 watts per meter squared. In the model, I'm going to use the maximum ever achieved on Earth, 2,177.
Like 1,000.
What's that?
1,000 or 1,500 is more of a typical exposure.
Yeah. Pupil area in real life is about 3 square millimeters. Pupils fully dilated, it's 78 square millimeters. That's a 25-fold difference. He told us it's 44 minutes. We'll convert that to seconds because the math is easier. And I'm going to grant him 100% efficiency in this task. So I've been as generous as possible with all these numbers. So let's do the math. We've got our subject at the highest point on Earth, pupils dilated 44 minutes. So you do the math, the irradiance times the area, which we have to convert from square millimeters to square meters. We move the decimal point over 6 places. He has 2 eyes, so we multiply that by 2. We get 0.342 watts. To get to, that's watts is power. To get to energy, we have to multiply by time. That's 2,640 seconds, and we get 902 joules. So at that, under those circumstances, he takes in 902 joules of energy and is 100% efficiency in converting that to metabolic energy. 902 joules sounds like a lot. So energy is measured in joules or calories, and dietary calories with a big C are actually kilocalories. And it's just a constant to convert from one to the other. So 902 joules is about 0.2 dietary calories, which is about the metabolic energy of a 20th of the grape, or about 1/100th of his daily metabolic needs. So how does he do it? So basically, he's a free energy machine. This is, yes?
Well, I have so many questions. Like, for example, disregarding the fact that he doesn't have chloroplast that would have the membranes for the kinds of exchanges, like the electron transport. What about, like, does he claim to still need to be able to breathe oxygen during the day?
He never addressed that. Good question. Let's do the math on that one. So how does he do it? Well, I mean, this is like, certain claims you don't really have to know too much. If it's a perpetual motion machine or a free energy machine, you don't really need to test it. You can kind of dismiss it outright, and I think that's clear here. Even if you have the metabolic mechanisms to do this, he couldn't survive. So I told you that there's a lot of characters we meet through the movie that you don't get to meet, but there is a montage of people coming out of one of his lectures. And I just thought I would show that.
I heard about HRM on the website about 9 months ago.
I'm up to 12 minutes and 30 seconds.
This lecture just reinforced exactly what I've been hearing. I'm looking forward to the pineal gland and even the DNA changes that I know are going to happen.
We'll see what happens after 9 months. The proof is in the pudding.
Sun gazing is addicting. Take it from me, it's addicting. You can't quit. You can't quit. You don't want to quit.
So eat the sun. Should you? This is the public service announcement. No, you should not do it. You can injure yourself. It really is. I have seen patients with what we call photic or solar retinopathy from staring at the sun. It's a bad idea. Apparently during Vietnam, people would do this as a way to try to get out of being drafted. My professor when I was a resident said he saw several people that did that. Can you? Well, I think we can say it's biochemically implausible. Since we haven't studied HRM directly, we don't know for sure, but I think we can say it's thermodynamically impossible. And I hope there's a skeptic camp in 2027. This is just, I don't know if this is what I'm going to talk about, but I learned of another kind of fringe activity that involves sun exposure, and it involves taking off your shoes. And this is called perineal sunning. It's a real thing. But see, his eyes are closed, so he's safe. And I thank you for your time and attention.